Hi, my name is Nicole Baker, and here is my presentation on race, class, access, gender, and equity on inclusive leadership. The first article that I read was by James Collins, about level 5 leadership. According to Mr. Collins, level 5 leaders blends extreme personal humility with intense professional will. And what I thought was really interesting about this concept is that personal humility and professional will seem to be a paradoxical combination of traits. The way Collins describes how this paradox works together is something that I found really interesting. He described a variety of leaders in his Level 5 leadership article, ones who move kind of beyond that larger than life, egocentric types of leaders, and more towards people who are reflective and possibly shy, much more quiet, but have this intense sense of professional will. One of the stories that I really appreciated that he included was the story about a CEO at a paper company who was very shy, very reserved, and often a bit doubtful about his own abilities. And that was one of the qualities that made him such an impressive leader and something that helped him achieve that level 5 leadership skill, because it wasn't his ego that got in the way of his ability to lead, which takes me to my next point about the concept of the window and the mirror that Collins explains. In terms of the window and the mirror, it's about looking out the window to apportion credit and looking in the mirror to assign responsibility. So essentially, when you're looking to credit the business or the organization with success, you look outwards as opposed to inwards. So you credit those where credit is due and not yourself. And then when you're looking to assign responsibility, instead of looking out the window, then instead you look in the mirror and look to yourself to kind of see what needs to be changed or what went wrong. The opposite is true for leaders who are egotistical and maybe often have that kind of larger than life kind of vibe, where they look internally to take credit and then externally to assign responsibility. So level 5 leadership does the exact opposite, and it was something that I thought was a really interesting quality about a leader, and I think kind of speaks to the nature of inclusivity, looking outwards to thank and credit all of those members or outside factors that influence an organization's success. In thinking a little bit more about the concept of inclusive leadership, some of the qualities and characteristics that Collins describes and attributes to level 5 leaders include thinking about the work that you do as something that you want to build and create and contribute to, as opposed to taking credit for. And to me, inclusive leaders work consistently to build, create, and contribute to an environment that values all individuals regardless of any type of diversity, race, class, gender, orientation, etc. In addition, the capability to be this level 5 type of leader resides in a person's kind of somewhere inside them as like a little seed, and it can be grown by anyone or anything, some kind of situation or circumstance or other individual. It can be grown with self-reflection, it can be grown with a mentor, loving parents, maybe a significant life experience. And in that way, if you think about leaders who have the capability to become these level 5 leaders, it's based on nothing but this little internal seed and how it's fostered. And to me, that speaks directly to the inclusive nature of leadership. We kind of don't know where our next level 5 leader will come from. It's just where does that little seed get watered, and with what significant life experiences grow that seed. So I think a lot of what Collins had to say about level 5 leadership speaks to the need for inclusive leaders, and I really enjoyed the article. There's a link to the Harvard Business Review listed at the bottom of this screen in the PowerPoint if you'd like to read more about Collins' level 5 leadership. For my second article, I chose an article having to do more specifically with gender issues in K-12 leadership, written by Sanchez and Thornton. It was published in 2010 in the Advancing Women in Leadership Journal. The article started by stating some pretty interesting statistics on the number of female administrators in the K-12 and leadership positions, as well as in superintendencies. There's a very disproportionately low number of women who occupy roles as K-12 administrators, where we see upwards of 75% of the teaching force in K-12 buildings to be female. For example, in secondary schools, only 25% of administrators are female. That number goes down even further the higher up you go into the superintendency. In 2006, the article stated that only 15% of women functioned in the superintendent's capacity nationwide. It's really important that we consider how we are going to attain a more equitable gender distribution. It's something that's necessary in leadership as our society becomes increasingly diverse, something that we know about teaching and education in general is that our students need to see leadership and faculty as reflective of their own diverse qualities. So it is really important that that female students are able to see female leadership. The article pointed out many barriers to gender equality in K-12 leadership, and I'll just highlight a few of those for you. There is an ongoing assumption at this point that equity problems have been solved already, which is certainly not the case, but we've moved on to other issues in inclusivity, and gender is one that seems to get left behind. There's also some kind of recent apathy and ambivalence around gender issues, and I think that also has to do with the way our focus has moved towards other issues of equality. There's a leadership culture in the principalship surrounding male dominance and the masculine nature of leadership, as well as this kind of stereotype of authority and discipline that we often associate with men instead of women. And those values and those qualities, I think, kind of hinder the gender equality balance in the principalship. In addition, women also face sexism, bias, and discrimination, as they have for a long time. And finally, women sometimes, the study found, lack the confidence or aspiration to kind of move forward in their leadership goals. Sometimes women are seen as more uncomfortable with the concept of power. However, what this reminded me of was the importance that Collins stressed about not being an egotistical leader, but being one who is self-reflective and sometimes, even at some point, possibly shy or questioning of their own abilities. Being that humble leader lends itself a little bit better to kind of the female gender in this situation where women are less comfortable. A few of the qualities or strategies used by successful female administrators that this article highlighted were making use of great, strong female mentors in the field of administration, as well as understanding how to achieve a greater work-family balance and access to higher education tracks and leadership. And trends in educational leadership and higher ed are changing. More women are completing ed leadership certificates and programs. So I do anticipate that we'll see some of those numbers, those low percentages, change as time goes on. For the part 2 of this presentation, I'm going to talk about how to apply inclusive leadership in the setting that I'm most interested in pursuing, which is building level leadership in K-12, specifically in the secondary building. A couple of items that I drew from my research and our course readings, as well as the video that introduced Module 4, included creating a climate of celebration and making sure to show appreciation, and especially where appreciation is due, even if it's small. The idea of being an inclusive leader is valuing the little, whatever it is that everyone gives to the organization. And I think it's really important to acknowledge what people give and to do it with sincerity and to be genuine. These genuine acts of caring uplift the spirits and draw people forward, according to the authors of the text and the video that we watched at the beginning, again, of this module. The idea here is that the acts of caring have to be genuine, and I think it's very clear when those acts are not necessarily coming from a place of honesty. Like I discussed a little bit earlier, the idea of providing mentorship for all types of leaders to kind of grow leadership from within the organization is a great way to be an inclusive leader. That way you can work to actively foster diversity in your workplace by encouraging everyone and from every background to lead and to be kind of their best selves at work. Finally, some of these last two ideas that seem to blend really nicely together are to focus on what you as a team build together in your organization, and to foster trust and collaboration. The idea is not that a leader does it alone or faces challenges or experience successes alone. It's what you can build together with your team, and to do that you have to foster that spirit of collaboration and to be trusting and to model that experience of trust. And I think inclusive leaders are sure to do that in their organization and kind of spread that climate throughout their organization. Finally, before I move on to my next slide, the idea of genuine leadership, I think that Nordhaus explains, really does a good job of kind of encompassing all of these qualities that I see in terms of application of inclusive leadership. Without that real genuine approach to all situations, I don't think that an inclusive leader is bound to be successful. For my third part of the presentation, I'm going to discuss leadership challenges to inclusive education. To inclusive leadership. The first issue that leaders might face in terms of inclusive leadership has to do with the ability to build trust amongst all of those individuals who are part of the organization as it stands. I think it is difficult to build trust because it takes time, and I think the best way to build trust is to model trust, something that we read about in our research and also in our text for the course. Considering the complexity of the organization, schools and large districts especially are wildly complex. There are many stakeholders and lots of policies and procedures and possibly previously established climates that exist in buildings that can be, I think, kind of roadblocks to change for inclusive leadership. However, the inclusive leader is going to ideally possess some of those really amazing traits that Collins described, where with humility and diligent hard work and authenticity, the leader is able to build trust and, regardless of the complexity of the organization, change the existing climate to be one of inclusion, to be one of celebration, and one of appreciation of all individuals, regardless of background. So I think the key to the evolution of a school building with its administrator in mind has to do with the ability to overcome these obstacles, build trust, and create a new climate in the building that values inclusion. And that is the end of my presentation. Thanks.